Good morning, everyone. Let me introduce myself. I'm Lee Won Xiang from Utah. I'm also the KLESF Secretariat. Thank you for taking time out and being here today. Today is our workshop 2 for this data analysis workshop. So just a little housekeeping before we get started. So if you have any question, you may leave your question in the chat box. If you would like to switch on your mic, maybe you get permission from Mr. Chiu first, the trainer. So you let him know first, then you can ask your question. So just a short introduction about Mr. Chiu. He is Mr. Chiu Chun Yong, Senior Lecturer from Department of Mathematical and Actuarial Sciences, Lee Kong Chian Faculty of Engineering and Science, University Tunku Abdul Rahman, Utah. Okay, I will be posting the sign-in link. Actually, this is the same link with, like yesterday, the sign-in link. So you just sign in for our record. Okay, so now without further ado, I will turn the time over to Mr. Chiu. Okay, pass it to you, Mr. Chiu.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. Hey, good morning, everyone. So I think the camera should be on, right? So yeah, this is me, and I will be going through the 2 days workshop with you today and tomorrow. So I have uploaded certain files, I think 1 PDF file and 3 Excel file, 1 text file in the Microsoft Teams. So I will turn off the camera and then share the screen so that you all can follow the, if you have not used Microsoft Teams before, so you can follow the clicks, where to click. Okay, so I also made a screenshot. So I sent through the chat here. So you can see that there are like 4 steps here. It's the simple one. Okay, so let me share the screen and we will start to download the files first. Okay, right. So, okay. So before we continue, so basically this should be the screen that you will be you are currently seeing, right? So for Microsoft Teams, most of the controls are on the left-hand side. So you can move your mouse cursor to the left-hand side, and then you can see depending on whether you are using web browser or the apps, so it could be a little bit different in the interface, but you can search for the Teams icon, click on that. So you could have different teams, but this Utah KLESF Data Analysis Workshop 2021, once you click into here, make sure that we are in this general tab, right? So, and then on the slightly left-hand side a little bit, you can see posts and files. So post is basically what we have here. And then you can click at the files, and then what we send through the chat actually will be also somewhere here like this files. And then day 2 and day 3 folder. So you can download the whole folder by moving your cursor slightly to the middle. So click at the 3 dots, and then you can see download option. Okay, or you can click into the folder and then you can download one by one. So our flow here, of course, the slides is more or less like introduction or some of the steps that you can actually follow. So some of the screenshot, like the step 1, 2, 3, I put it in the slides. Some of them I put it in the workbook here. So we will start from the basic operation before we go into the slides. Okay, so this basic operations Excel file is basically just the some warm-up exercise that we will do. After that, we will move on to the slides and also workbook. Dashboard will be the second part of the workshop. So either tomorrow or late today. Okay, so let me turn on the chat box. So any questions, you can just leave your question in the chat box. So once I come back to this windows or this screen, I will basically attend to your question. Okay, so if you have any issue downloading the files, you can let me know. If not, then we will begin the first warm-up exercise today. Okay, all right, so this will be the slides, and then of course you probably have, if you have downloaded, then you will have like one PDF file. Okay, so over here I have one PowerPoint file which I did not send through the Microsoft Teams. So 1 slides, and then you have 3 Excel file and 1 text file. So we start from this basic operation Excel file. Okay, right. So any issue in downloading the files so far? Right, okay, so it should be no problem. Okay, so if no problem, then we will move back to this part, and then we can open up this basic operation Excel file. Okay, so of course, over here when we talk about Microsoft Excel, as you can see from here, when I start this, let me close first. When I start this file, you can see my Excel Microsoft 365. So Microsoft Excel has different version. So the interface or the screenshot that you see over here may be a little bit different with what you see on your own Microsoft Excel file. So that is probably due to few reasons. So the first one is probably due to the version. So you might be using 2019, 2016 version. So usually Excel, you have like every 3 year one version, right? So 2007, 2010, 2013, 16, 19. And now Microsoft actually launched this Excel 365. So Excel 365 is basically, it has a certain feature like cloud-based, and also you get the new function almost immediately. Okay, so before we continue to this completing this part here, so certain things that you can actually let me pin this one so that it will be similar with yours, right? So you will see that this part here, I can actually zoom in. Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay. Okay, right. So what you see on top of the screen now is basically from files and then home, insert, and so on. So this whole thing is called ribbon, R-I-B-B-O-N, ribbon. And then this ribbon, basically, each of them, sometimes we call it as a tab. So it's like insert tab, page layout tab, and so on. So probably you have seen use different features yesterday, like for example, when you click insert, and then let me click somewhere else first. Okay, right. So let me go back to this part. So when I'm using this magnifier, so a bit hard to navigate. So yesterday probably you have also tried like histogram. Okay, so histogram, this feature or this button, it is available starting Excel version 2016. So if you are using Excel 2013, 2010, histogram is not available in your version. So, but that is fine. In the later part, we will go through different things, and then as long as you see, hey, how come my Excel software doesn't have this button or doesn't have this function, you can let me know. So I will let you know in your version how do we deal with that. Of course, not everything we can have like an equivalent method, but we will try. Okay, so this is the ribbon, and then these are the version type. So one more thing that could cause the difference in the ribbon here is that, for example, if you look at the ribbon here, right? So now you have, like, for example, on the screen, analyze data is the second most right, and then sensitivity is the most right button, right? When I maximize it, you can see that, let me minimize, make it smaller again. So you observe this part here, it is only a button without the text, right? So the third last group. So when you click at it, when I maximize it, you can see that it has the text here. So sometimes depends on the screen resolution, or depends on whether your Excel, you place it larger or smaller. So if I make it smaller, you see the button is actually changing. Okay. So the interface, the ribbon is changing. Like for example, alignment here, you can actually, once I make it smaller, you can see that it will be grouped under one bigger button, right? So that you can save some space here. So it depends on screen resolution, depends on how you maximize or you make it smaller. Okay, right. So this is on the Microsoft Excel. So one more thing about this Microsoft Excel is that perhaps you have to look at the Excel and then look at the screen to follow the steps. So sometimes if it is a bit small, you can click at this button on Microsoft Teams, and then you should be able to see like enter full screen. So your button could be here, could be on top of here, depending on you are using web browser or the Microsoft Teams application. So you can use enter full screen to make the screen slightly larger. Okay, of course, anything that you are not too sure, you can always chat with me. Okay, now let's come back to here. This small warm-up exercise is basically, first thing, we want to try the using formula to do some calculation. And then of course, we will look at some formatting later. Okay, so I will zoom in. First. So as you can see from here, when I zoom in, then I realize that the space here is actually too small for me to show you. So I will basically click at the ribbon here on the bottom right-hand side. There's a small button. So when I click at this one, Control F1, you can see that I can save a little bit of the space here. Okay, right. So that is one of the things. So that's why usually I save it, because we can make it larger, the screen. Okay, so now the case here is like this. So 3 persons actually went to this Singapore, and then of course before pandemic, and then they purchased different items in a bookstore. So what are the items that they purchased? Actually, they spend some money and then purchase 5 different items. Okay, so each of them has different number of quantity, and then unit price is basically 1 pen is 2 SGD. So they bought in total 5 pens. And then pencil also same, 4 pencil, 1 pencil is 1 SGD. So we want to know what is the total amount that they spend. So of course we know that we want to do a multiplication here, like 5 times 2 equal to 10, 4 times 1 equal to 1, right? So this is basically what we do when we are working on some homework exercise, right? Mathematics exercise. So 5 times 2, perhaps we will write this thing in the working. But in Excel, usually if it is number, you don't write it in this way, because you don't want it to become a text. So before we further proceed from here, observe that I mentioned text, right? So Excel actually read these things that you key in into each of the rectangle here. One rectangle is called a cell, C-E-L-L, right? So one rectangle is called a cell. And then a collection of rectangle, for example, like this, we call it as a range, I-N-G-E. So let me start a new Excel file, and then just to illustrate a little bit. So you have a cell, which is just a rectangle, okay? Then you have a range, which is like a collection of rectangle. We call it as a range. Okay, so anyway, so every cell here, Excel read it as like using 3 different categories. Whatever you key in here, we interpret it in 3 categories. So what are the three categories? The first one is, of course, values. And then after that is text, and then formula. Okay, so let me use singular for all. Okay, right, so value, you can also sort of like a number. Text is like a string. So string is like a terminology commonly used in programming, right? So a string is a text. Then formula is basically what we do, like equal to sum and so on. So we will talk about that later. Okay, so Excel will read everything, every cell is either value, text, or formula. Okay, so most of the times you don't want your number to be interpreted as a string. Okay, so or you don't want your value to be interpreted as a text. Why is it so? Because they are different. Okay, so this is one key thing when you want to deal with data analysis, because you need to understand what is the data type. Okay, so not just in Microsoft Excel, but in a lot of different programming. So when you start to deal with programming, you will realize that what I write into the programming, like for example, a number 1, I can write it as a number. I can also get the program to read this thing as a text. Okay, so these are two different things. Or you can view it as like I store it in 2 different locations. Okay, of course it's not different location, but we view it in this way. Okay, so what is the difference between if I store a number as a number and I store a number as a text? So the difference is that they are not equal. That means, for example, if you see that there is a this one and this one, okay, you have 2, 1, right? but they are different. They are different. Okay, why we say that they are different? Because one is number, one is text. Okay, so I will just put it here. So Control X to cut and paste. Okay, so I can actually align them center so that you see they are actually 1 and 1 here. Okay, so these are some of the things that you need to be slightly careful, because when you deal with numbers, sometimes you want the numbers to be number. Sometimes you want the numbers to be a text. Okay, when we talk about a text, means the format. Then if we zoom in a little bit, you see the cell that has 1 being stored as a text has actually a green color triangle on the bottom, top left corner. So you see one yellow color escalation mark symbol here. If you click at this one, you can see that the first line is, you cannot click the first line, it's just a label saying that Excel observe, this is by the algorithm. The algorithm observes that you have a number being stored as a text. So what they suggest you, convert this back to a number, or if you are not too sure what is this thing, you can click help on this error, or you can ignore the error. So usually we will be using the first one or the third one. Convert to number means if I click this one, observe that green color triangle no longer there, and this 1 is now a number 1. It's no longer a text. So I will use Control Z to just undo. Click this one. Ignore the error. The green color triangle is not there anymore. Okay, but this number is still a text, not a number. So how do we know that this is actually a text or a number? You can actually use a formula to check this thing, right? So let me type the formula here, equal. So a bit jumpy here and there because of the magnifier software. So they will always make what we are typing in the center of the screen. That's why you see a bit jumpy. To check that whether two cells are the same or not, you can use a formula. So remember, in Excel, Microsoft Excel, every formula, you must start with an equal sign. Of course, sometimes you can start with a plus or a negative sign when you are more familiar with Microsoft Excel. Okay, so you can start with a plus sign also. That is fine. But over here, we just restrict ourselves to an equal sign so that it will be easier for us to understand. Okay, so equal sign, after the equal sign, everything is the formula. So what you want the formula to do? I want to check whether this one equal to the next number or not, right? So you see over here, I cannot click actually because the formula actually cover this cell. So sometimes I will click at the side and then use my cursor arrow key on the keyboard. I press left 1 time. So it will move in. Okay, so it will move in. So I am checking D5 equal to D6. So if you read this formula, it seems a bit not so understandable or nonsense from the point of like mathematical view, right? So you have equal. Sometimes you don't write it in this way, but you write it in this way when you talk about like mathematical equation, right? So we say x equal to 3, x equal to 5, all right? So this is like the first equal sign is to tell Excel that, okay, you read everything here as an equation. So I'm saying that D5 equal to D6 is just like x equal to 3. So now Excel will say, okay, you tell me that today is Sunday. Today is Sunday, right? Today equals Sunday. Today is Sunday. So Excel will probably tell you that, no, today is not Sunday. But of course, they don't tell you in a sentence. They tell you in a Boolean, B-O-O-L-E-A-N, Boolean. Basically, it's just 1010 or true, false. So if you press enter here, you can see that this is a false. Why? Because this is actually a text, not a number. So if I type a 1 here again, I press enter, you can see that now 1 equal to 1. This is true. Just now, this 1 is actually a text. Okay. So having understanding this part here, then we know that, okay, whatever we key in here, we need to think of it whether you want to store the number as a number or as a text. So as a rule of thumb, most of the time we won't be using, most of the time, of course, not all the time, most of the time you won't store a number as a text. So when this kind of situation will happen is that when you copy a data from a PDF file, when you get a data from a database, so sometimes the database does not extract or export the data in number format. So you may have to clean up the data a little bit. Okay, so we will talk about in details about data cleaning later. So that is basically just some of the data type. Okay, so when we talk about data analysis, first thing we want to understand data type. So in a lot of time or a lot of programming, most of the times you are dealing like value text. So of course, value or the number you can split into, you can further classify them, right? So integer, decimal, and then a lot of other things. Okay, but in Excel we generalize it: value, text, and formula. Okay, so 3 things. So this part is just some introduction. Now back to this one, we know that, okay, so we don't want to Excel to have like 5 times 2 equal to 10 over here. Why? Because if you type it in this way, you are actually saying that this cell G13 is a text. So when it is a text, what happened? You cannot do operation later on. So in Excel, most of the time, when you know that, hey, this is a number, I want to store it as a number 10, right? So you can see that over here, there should be a check here saying correct or incorrect, right? So 5 times 2 equal to 10. So we don't do it in this way. Type it as a 10. Can we do so? Of course you can, but this is not the best practice. Okay, so bear in mind one thing, although this number multiply with this number is a simple calculation, most of the time in Excel, we don't want to manually type in like 4, 1.5, 90, and 1.4 here. We don't want to do so. Why? Because we want to make everything to be more dynamic. Dynamic means when you change the number here, this number will change accordingly. So why do we want to have this flexibility? Because of a few things. First thing, data may be having some error, right? So maybe suddenly John come and tell you that, hey, actually it's not 5, it's 15. Then you have to change this thing again, right? So 15 times 2 is 30. Then you have to change it. So you want to minimize your work in the future. So over here, of course, directly type in is easy, but we don't want to do so. So what we want to do here is that, let me delete this one. We use a formula. So remember, any formula start with equal sign, and then you can click at the 5, put the asterisk mark. So that one is Shift 8, asterisk mark, and then click here. Okay, so press enter. You get a 10. So what is the advantage of using formula is that next time, if they tell you that this is 15, not 5, doesn't matter. This number change accordingly. So that is by using formula, right? So most of the time, this kind of situation, you may want to use formula. And then of course, using formula, the second advantage is that you can copy and paste. You can copy, drag the formula. Okay, so that you see, I don't have to type 1 by 1. If let's say I'm typing 1 by 1, 4 times 1, right? I get a 4. So I don't have to do so because I can actually copy, paste here, okay? Or I can click and drag. So copy, paste, I get exactly the same. So observe that now my formula is in row 13, right? So I'm at this cell here. I'm referring to row 13 as well. E13 means column E, row number 13. F13 means column F, row number 13. Okay, so when you click and drag this one, when you want to drag this thing, you can see that, so let me move my cursor to here, right? So you move your cursor to the selected cell, bottom right, and then you can click and drag. Okay, for example, drag for another 2 rows, or I can actually double click. So if I do a double click, it will send the formula down until the end. So double click. Okay, and now if I move just go down a little bit, you see this part is an error. Okay, so why is it so? because the formula keep copying down, right, until the last row, which is here. And then you realize that you are taking E18 multiplied by F18. Formula is correct, but F18 is a tax total. So when you have a number multiplied by a tax, for example, today is Sunday multiplied by 3, what is the sentence? It's not defined, right? So you cannot do this operation. So that's why you get hash value. That means the value that you put into the formula is incorrect. So this one, you want to delete that. Okay, so let me zoom out first and come back to here. So any questions, you can leave a message in the chat box. Okay, so now once we have this one, of course, we want to use a formula to say, okay, I want to sum up everything here, right? So as you can observe from here, asterisk, the star asterisk, right, symbol is for multiplication. So of course, if you want division, it's just this symbol slash, and then of course plus, okay, minus. So you can do a summation, like for example, equal to 10 plus 4 plus, and then of course I'm using my mouse to click here, you see, and then 90 and so on. But this way is slightly slower because you have to click and plus like for a few times. So what we do is you can actually use a sum symbol. Okay. Okay, so basically I'm just showing you this. Okay, so this gray color part here is basically to show the what is that called? The keyboard that I'm typing. For example, if I type here equal, so you can see that equal is here. Okay, so so that easier for you to follow. Okay, type in equal, and then of course I can type in the sum function. So sum sum is to sum up everything. Let me put this one at the bottom better. Okay, right. So equal to sum sum, and then of course I can put a bracket manually like this, or I can use a tab. You observe here, I'm pressing the tab on the keyboard. Okay, it's a tab. So Excel will change everything to capital letter, put in the bracket for me. Okay, so let me try one more time, sum sum, and then press the tab. Okay, tab is for function auto completion. And then you can select the 5 numbers like this and then press enter. Okay, so you get 106.9. So that is the answer here. So this is when you are using sum function. Okay, press F2, you can check or edit the function. But you can delete this one as well. Sum, and then select like this. Of course, if you want to use keyboard shortcut, you can also use alternate equal. So Excel will try to guess what you want to sum and then place it for you. Okay. You see, I press alternate without typing the formula, alternate equal. So you can have this function being inserted with the suggested range, G13 to G17. Then we press enter. You get this one. Okay. So that is for some of the formula warm up. Okay, so now we observe one more thing here is that column E, you see no decimal. Column F, you have like 2 decimal here. And then column G, some of them has decimal, some of them does not, right? So the difference here is that these are actually formatting. It does not change the value, okay? So for example, if this column F, right? I want to change it to no decimal. That means only integer. Okay, so can we do so? Of course we can. Let me pin this one and then we just you can see that on the home tab here, this part is for you to adjust the decimal. But you see, if I remove the decimal, okay, so maybe I zoom in a bit. Right, so you can see under the home tab here, this part, right? So you can click this button to decrease the decimal. But even though if you decrease the decimal, right, even though you decrease the decimal, you realize that these numbers become integer. So like 3 times 1 becomes 1.5. You see, it is a little bit weird. Why? Because this number is actually 0.5, you see. Although the formatting changed it to 1 decimal, they will automatically round it up. But the number that is being stored is still the same, okay? So in Excel, one thing that you need to be slightly more careful is that the formatting change how you see. It does not change what is inside the data. Okay, so this inside the data is still 0.5. So how do we know that this is still 0.5? Usually you can press F2. Then you can go into this formula editing mode. You see that this is actually 0.5. Press escape to exit it. Okay, F2, escape, F2, escape. Escape button is on your top left. Okay, F2, and then escape. Another way is that you can go to this formula bar here, which is, you see, the column header, right? So on top of it, you have one white color space. This is formula bar. Check what is inside this formula bar. It is 0.5 here. So no matter what you see, like you see a number 1, but this is still 0.5. So this is something that is slightly more tricky when you deal with Excel, because you can actually change the interface. So you need to always make sure that what you see is actually the data. Okay, so I can increase back the decimal. You see, it is actually 0.5. It does not change the value. It only changes how we see the data. Okay, same thing here. If you want to do a standard, usually in terms of data presentation, or when you talk about present your result in a chart or in the tables, you want to make your formatting consistent. And one of the things is that depending on what type of data, over here, this is amount, is a monetary term, right? So it's money. So usually small amount like 100 ringgit, you may want to show 2 decimal because you have 50 cents, 55 cents, and so on. So show 2 decimal like this. So over here, you can see a few things. Click at this comma button. This is comma style, basically is to, let me click and then show you. You probably have used this before. So click at the comma style. So we are in the home tab of the ribbon over here. So you can see we have like 10, 4, and so on. So if you automatically change it to 2 decimal, and then where is the comma? So basically, when you have more than 1,000, I will directly change this thing here. Okay, so you don't have to change it. I'm just trying to show you what is the comma. So you can see a comma here. This comma is 1,000 separator. Okay, every 1,000, they will put a comma. Let's try one more time. Okay, so advantage of this comma or 1,000 separator is that directly, if I look at this number, this one, right? I directly know that this is 10 million. Why? Because 2 comma, 10 million, 1 million has 6 zeros. So this is 10 million. I don't have to count like sa, puluh, ribu, and so on, right? So, or digits and then tens, hundreds, and so on, count until here. So using the 1,000 separator, we directly know that this is 10 million. If I type in like, let's say if we just randomly type in some number, of course, this is a little bit big. I also don't know the unit. Okay, but using 1,000 separator, you can see that things become easier to read if you deal with large amount. Okay, so 12,000, right? So 1,000 separator, so it's 12,000. So that is the advantage of using this comma style. Comma style here, of course, sometimes it's also called accounting style. So accounting style means that if you press a 0 here, you get a dash. So a dash here now is not a minus sign. It is not a text. It is a number 0. Okay, so the number is still 0 because why? Because I press F2, I get a 0. Escape. F2, escape, right? So a dash is actually a formatting for this 0. To show a 0 as a dash, that is accounting style. Okay, that means this item is not in the list, right? Something like that, that kind of concept. Okay, So now we have done with this first part here, a simple calculation with some formatting information. So most of the formatting you can deal with it from here. If you need more than that, you can click this one, you have that. And then you can click more number format. That one you can actually change other formatting. So we will look at the formatting, a custom format in the last part of the workshop, okay, tomorrow. Now, we want to do a multiplication again, but we want to change this column. Let me hide this one. So we want to change this column from SGD to MYR. So MYR now, I think a few days ago is 3.08. So one SGD is around 3 ringgit, right? So you want to multiply by 3.08. So how do we do so? Let me zoom out and then I quickly show you one of the less efficient way. Okay, so I can type the formula here, right? Equal sign. So remember, formula start with equal sign. I click at the 10 and then I type in the asterisk symbol, click at the 3.08. And then of course, I do the same thing again and again. So I repeat for 5 times. So when you deal with Excel, your work is repeating. Probably it has a better way. Okay, so usually we don't want to repeat like this for 5 times and then do the alternate equal to get the sum. So can we copy paste? It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Can we, now I can zoom in. Can we double click here? Like for example, I delete this one. I have one formula correct already. I double click. Send the formula down. Cannot. Okay, so why? Okay, let me double click. I send the formula down. Okay. Right, so if I press F2, you see it is no longer, you can check when you press F2, right? Blue color, we don't really need to read like where is G14, where is E24. If it is a simple formula, we base on color. So like G14 is blue color, you see 4 multiplied by the red color, blue multiply red, blue multiply red. How come it's not 3.08? Right, so it should be here, but then the formula shows that it is actually here. So the 4 multiplied by with a blank cell. So a blank cell is having a value 0. So 4 multiplied by 0, you get 0. You see a dash, right? So accounting formatting. Move to the next one. Blue color multiply with the red color. Blue color is 1.5 is correct. Multiply by amount bracket MYR. So a number multiplied with a text, again, is not defined, this operation. So you can see that this is hash value. That means you get incorrect value into the formula. Okay, so continuing from here, you realize that the reason for this error is because 3.08, this cell is moving down. You see, first time I link it to E23. After that, it will move down accordingly, right? So if you don't want it to move down, you have to use the dollar sign. So yesterday you learned about the F4 key, right? So F4 key is basically to toggle the dollar sign. So this part here is for us to basically, how to say, practice about this F4. So type in the equal sign, scroll to the top here, I click at the 10. So the 10 here, I want it to move down. So no need to lock it. So dollar sign is like a locking system. Okay, so put in the asterisk symbol. Let me scroll down. So I multiply with this one. Okay, so before you press anything at this point, you can see that I'm using G13 multiply with E23. So E23 is actually having this dotted line moving in a clockwise rotation, right? Orientation. So what does the dotted line and also this part is a solid line, the difference? The difference here is that now you are editing this dotted line. Solid line means it's a firm selection. Okay, so if I click at elsewhere, you see, observe this number E23 and the selection. If I click here, E23 will change. Okay, because this is not finalized. But G13 is solid line, so it has been finalized. So click back here. Before you click anything, I press F4 one time. So pressing F4 will insert the dollar sign for you automatically. So another question is that, can I type dollar sign manually? Yes, you can. Shift 4 and then E23, right? So you can type manually. Okay, you can type manually, or you can also use F4 to insert the dollar sign for you. So F4 actually is quite useful. You can use F4 to insert a dollar sign, so you don't have to type manually. Once you have this one, press enter. Okay, now you can double click here. You can see that all formula is correct now. We pick one number and randomly check. You see 3.08 does not go down anymore, right? Because you have locked it. So that is the F4 key. So I think you learned about F4 to lock yesterday. So this is just a small practice. Now we move to the next one. Once we know that the split of the item. So just now in the top of this worksheet, we know that total 5 items, 4 items, and so on. So now we have the split between these 3 persons. We want to know each of them, how much they spend for each category in Ringgit Malaysia. Okay, so what is the number? So for example, we can do this calculation one by one manually. So for John, pen, right? So we are talking about pen and then John. So equal sign before all the calculation or all the formulas start with equal sign. So equal sign, how many pen John purchased? 1. Multiply by how much is the cost of 1 pen? Unit price is 2, right? So you cannot use this one because this is total amount for 5 pens. So for 1 pen is 2 SGD, 2 Sing dollar. So now you have 1 multiplied by 2 multiplied by, this is the amount in Sing dollar, right? So multiply by the conversion rate 3.08 over here, and then press enter. This will give you what is the amount he spent on pen in Ringgit Malaysia. So press enter, 6.16, and then we can repeat, like for example for Smith, and then it should be 2 multiplied by 1 multiplied by SGD, right? So until now, probably you have observed that this conversion rate is always here. So maybe you want to press F4 to lock it. Yes, but before we proceed with that, we illustrate one more time. So press enter, you get 6.16 because 1 and 2 are incorrect. So let's check again. 2 times, this is pen, right? So we use the wrong unit price. So what we do, how do we check this thing? Press F2. Okay, once you press F2, you can see the formula. You don't have to read through like this. So you see, after I press F2, I just ignore it, I scroll. Okay, 2 is correct. 3.08 is correct. So this 1 ringgit is incorrect, right? So how do we correct it? You can actually move it. Move your cursor to the edge. Let me zoom in. You see, when I move my cursor to the edge, right, so the border here, I can actually, the cursor changes. I can actually click and drag. Okay, but if you move your cursor to the corner, you can resize it. Of course, over here, you cannot resize because it will give you incorrect formula. So we want to just drag it. So you can edit your formula in this way, so you don't have to read like the number F13 multiplied by what and what. So that one is harder a little bit. Okay, so now press enter. So this should be the correct one. Okay, and then you want to proceed, right? So now how do we type in the formula one time, copy paste to the whole table like this using the F4 symbol, F4 keystroke. So let's delete this one and this one. Repeat again, equal to the number 1. So you see, I want the number to move accordingly just now, right? So let me zoom out a bit. And then of course, let me undo, zoom out. right? So we observe these two cells that we have selected, okay? We have completed. Press F2 to see the 1 here at the top row, and then the 2 here at the top row. So you want this thing to move around. So you don't want to lock it. So delete this one, retype this. So I want a 1 click here. Don't need to press F4 because we want to let this thing to move around, right? So press asterisk symbol, Shift 8, sorry. And then 1 unit multiplied by the unit price. This one, do we need to lock it? Yes, because you don't want it to move horizontally. You don't want later this thing will move here. Okay, so I will illustrate without locking. Okay, and then multiply again. So you can observe the keystroke over here. Then I click this 3.08 and then press F4 to lock this thing, right? So we talk about this one to lock it, then press enter. So I can actually move my cursor here. So over here, now you cannot click and drag your formula diagonally. So what you do is you can make it in 2 steps. Double click, send the formula down, right? So it will go down to here. And then click from here and then drag for 3 columns. Okay, right. So let me zoom out and see what happened. So you will see that I can drag it for the whole table, but it is incorrect. Why? This column is correct. We can check manually. So, right. You see, 1 unit multiplied by the conversion rate multiplied by the unit price, correct? So the whole column should be correct, 92. It seems a little bit big, right? This number, we check and see. 2 unit, correct? Multiplied by conversion rate, multiplied by unit price. That is correct, A4 paper. Okay, so seems like this 90 ringgit is correct. But 500 ringgit, check this one. 2 unit is correct. Unit price, conversion rate, correct. But unit price changed to here. It's supposed to be here, right? So now the formula shows that it is here because you drag the formula 3 column, right? So just now, the last step. So that this thing moved accordingly because we never lock it. Okay, so in this case, how do we deal with this one is that, let me repeat this formula again, right? So again, this one, you don't have to lock anything. Press Shift 8 to multiply by the conversion rate, multiply by this unit price again. So over here, you may want to be slightly more careful is that, let me scroll back to here, right? So observe, I press F4 1 time. Okay, I forgot to press F4 for this one. So I click here and then I press F4 to lock it. Okay, then I click here again, make sure the cursor is blinking in between F13. I press F4 1 time. We don't want this thing. We want to have press 1 more time and 1 more time like this. Okay, so basically you press F4 3 times for F13. Why? Because you want to lock the column but not the row. Okay, so that when you copy the formula down, your F13 will become F14, 15, 16, and so on. But when you copy your formula, drag it to the right-hand side, column F will not change to column G. Okay, so you want column F to be still at the same place. So that this one is the correct formula for the last part. So press enter, and then of course now let me zoom out a bit, and then what we can do is double click, copy the whole formula down, and then drag it to the right hand side. So this will be the correct answer. Okay, so that is for the first part of this one. Any questions so far? Okay, so if no question, then we will let me see. Okay, thank you. So if no question, then I will move into this the next part here, which is so this one is completed. So you want to save the file, you can save the file, or you can click close and then without saving. So it's just a small practice here. And then now the next one that we will be looking at is the workbook. Dashboard is the last Excel file that you will be using. Actually, all Excel file is called a workbook. Okay, so open up this Excel file. We will go through the content here together a little bit more here for this file. So let me zoom in. So this part that I'm doing is to unfreeze the pane. So you don't have to follow. Unfreeze pane is basically, you see, when I scroll, this part is always here. This is called freeze pane. Okay. Let me. It's under view and then freeze pane here. So I want to unfreeze so that this one won't take half of the screen so that we can see more rows. So if you want to, like, for example, keep this one always on top, you can actually click at row 3 and then view, unfreeze the freeze the pane. Then you can see I can scroll and then top 2 row will be always there. Okay, but of course over here I don't want this thing to be blocking my view, so I want to unfreeze it. So you can see that when you scroll the file that you downloaded from the Microsoft Teams, when you scroll the top row, these 3 rows is still there, right? So that is basically this one. Okay. Right, so I just want to unfreeze a few pages first. Okay. Okay, sure, no problem. Okay, so this part probably I went through a bit too quick just now. So let me give another example to illustrate in slightly more detail. Okay, so so that probably you can proceed with this one. So let me start a new workbook. Okay. Say let me type 1, 2, 3 here, and then okay, now we type some random number. So this formula probably you may not be using in now. So this is to get a random number from 1 to 10. So random number because our participant has from different ranges. So let me just explain a little bit. Random number is just like a number that we use 6 is better. Okay, a number that is like randomly generated. Well, weird definition. Okay. So you can view this thing as like I throw a dice, right? So a die basically has 6 faces, 1 to 6, like the one that you throw and then you get a number. Okay, so this part is basically just to generate a number from like throwing a dice. So over here I have 9 numbers. That means I throw the die for 9 times. Okay, so of course over here every time I key in something, the number changes because Excel recalculates this kind of function. So I will copy and paste as a value. This might be a bit too fast, but you don't really have to follow this part because it's just for illustration. Okay, right. So we have this formula. So now what we do is, like, for example, if I type in sum function, so I'm not using the shortcut key, and then I select three cell here. Okay. So I press enter. Let me zoom out a bit so that we can see everything. Right, so over here now, I can click and drag to the right-hand side, right? So it will move accordingly. Okay, so if I type in a formula here, and then of course I sum the row, and then I drag it down, you can see that the summation is also going down. So without the $sign, actually it follows where you copy. So sort of like a relative formula or relative location. So for example, now I can also do something like this. Okay, I delete all the numbers here. Okay, so I type in this one. Okay, let me put it here better. So I will zoom out so that we can see both tables. So it might be a bit small, but it is not the number that matters. So I type equal sign and I link it to the 5, right? So what happened here is that you can see sort of like, although it is linking to B2, you view it in this way. I'm linking to the cell 3 columns to the left, 6 columns to the top. Okay, 3, -3, -6, something like that. Okay, so I'm moving from here to here. So now when I am copying this formula, like click and drag to here, this part is still 3 columns to the left, 6 columns to the top. So it will be here. So it's relative location, not absolute. So if you want it to be absolute, then like the conversion rate, we have to put in the F4 so that when I drag it, it won't change. So it won't change. And all the cell will be in B2. Okay, so I can actually copy and drag, right? So, okay, let me remove the border first. Again, I type in link to, let's say, this 3. Now, I press F4. Whether I drag down or not, you can see that it will be still 3. Sorry, here, still 3, right? So that is the locking $sign. So now when we talk about just now, why we need to press F4 for 3 times, it is similar to this case here. For example, now this formula is not locked at all, right? So this one also same. So let's delete these 2. This one also same. Okay. So we start with this one first. If I press F4 here, you see I highlight both of them because I want to put in $sign for both into both B2 and B4. Okay. Of course, if let's say this is the first time you type the formula, you don't have to highlight. Okay, so like I press the tab. Okay, so that you can follow the formula together in case if you need to read. Okay, equals sum, and then I press the tab to auto complete it. Then I move the cursor up, Control Shift up to select the whole column. I can press F4 now. I can lock both of them. You see, one time of F4, both of them locked. Okay, so this one, if I do it in this way, copy, paste here, still 9 because this range will not change at all. Okay, so this is the same as the conversion rate just now. Okay, now I press F4 1 time, 2 times. So what happened here in this case is that we try and see. Enter. If I copy this 9 to here, what happened? Become 11. Why? Because it will move together. Why it will move together? You see, if you read the formula, view the $sign as like a locking system. So it will lock the number behind it or the text behind it. So in this case, the alphabet C does not have $sign in front, does not have $sign in front. So when you copy from the left to the right, the range that you refer to will also follow from the left to the right. So it will follow together. So in case if you don't want it to move to the right hand side, what we can do is we put a $sign in front of C. Okay, so let me delete this one. We try the third combination. So this is the second combination, right? So just now the first one is this way. I select the whole thing. I press F4. Okay, so this is the first one that we did just now. So with this first one, when you copy paste to the left hand side, you see it won't change. You copy paste to the bottom, it won't change also. It won't change also because the number has a $sign in front. Okay, so now over here, you want to make sure that, okay, let's say try the third one. So just now we tried this $sign in front of the number, but no $sign in front of the alphabet. You press F4 one more time. So this is like the 3 times of F4 that we did just now. So put in the bracket and then press enter. So now if I copy this one to the left hand side, you can see that it won't change already. Okay, because $B. So it won't change. So is this the same as when we press F4 one time? It is not the same because if you do it in this way, you copy it down, the numbers or the formula will go down together. So let's try. Just now we copy down, it is still the same, right? So now we try paste here, you can see that it is moving down. Okay, so because 3 and 5 does not have $ in front, so that is the reason why this thing is moving. So if you need it to be moving, you want to allow the formula that you link to move vertically, then this way, no $ in front of the number. If you need the formula to be moving horizontally but not vertically, then it should be something like this. This one. So this will lock it at always 3 to 5, no matter where you copy paste. Okay. So let's try one more time. Go back to just now this one. Right. So $2, $4. Copy this one to the right hand side. You see the formula follows together because the column has not been locked, but the row will be locked. It will be still the same because we have locked the row, so it won't go down. So that is the reason why in the worksheet just now we press 3 times of F4 because we want to lock the column, allow the row to change. Allow the row to change. That is over here. Oh, sorry, not this workbook. Void basic operation. Right. So you can see that just now, because we want to make sure that it is moving along this column. We don't want the cell that you link to move from column GF to column G. So you lock you put a $ in front of the alphabet because alphabet always refer to columns. Okay, no problem. Okay, so that is for this part here. And then now we will go to these slides first before we, let me close this one. So before I continue, so let me close all the Excel file. Right. So just now was more or less on the Excel part. So over here, these slides, it is like a very simple introduction to like some of the things that we do in data analysis. Okay, so or data analytics. So sometimes data analytics is being used. Of course, there are some people they treat analytics and analysis differently. Some people view them as the same. So over here, we don't make a clear definition about this thing. Okay, so basically what we have here is like this. The whole process, you can view it as like 3 modules. Of course, that will also be our simple task, simple or simplified contents in these slides and also this 2 days workshop. Okay, so first module is called ETL process. So you want to do extract, transform, and load. So what it means here is that extract from the database, transform your data, load it into Excel, and do the analysis. Okay, so you see the whole process here. The first part, this one, is basically on dealing with data. First thing, extract the data, clean the data, understand the data. Okay, so understanding the data is very important because don't always take the data directly do, even though, like, for example, next time you learn a lot of modeling skills. So we usually don't take the data directly or blindly throw into the model, say like, it's following some deep learning or machine learning, whatever algorithm that you learn or you want to use. Because we first need to understand the data, what the data actually means. Okay, so what they refer to. So we will talk about this thing later. So this is the first step. So extract, transform, and load. After that, we do some analysis. So the analysis that we can do is actually most of the time when you get, unless that data is you already understand the model. For example, if you work in a banking industry, you help the bank to do some modeling about the loan, okay, house loan, personal loan, or anything. Okay, so you help them to do this thing. You have already understand the data like 1 year ago. So now this year you repeat the same thing again. So well, the first part, descriptive analysis, maybe not too important, but still important. And you still need to do some of the basic things, like you want to understand how the data behave, how the data looks like. Okay, so we will focus on this part only for these two workshops. Predictive modeling is something slightly more advanced after you understand the shape of the data, how the data looks like, how the data behaves, and so on. So you will probably move into predictive modeling, which we will not be able to cover due to the time constraint, or also some prerequisite that you need to know before you can go into all these advanced techniques. And then the last part here, visualization and building a dashboard, is basically how do we deal with like chart. So you learned about inserting a chart yesterday. So in the last part here, we will talk about like some of the things that we want to learn before, or take note before we present the result to the bosses or to the public. Okay, so now we move to the next one. That is the introduction of the flow for these two workshops, 2 days workshop. Okay, so this is analysis. So one thing to take note here is that although we are using Excel, but Excel is actually not too efficient in handling large data set. So when we talk about large data set, it's like, or probably the terms that you always hear is like big data, right? So Excel is not efficient enough to deal with this kind of big data. So when you talk about big data, you probably have data that is in volume very big, okay, in velocity very big as well. What we mean by velocity, of course, big data definition, you can check online, is quite not just like this lah. I'm just giving some example. For example, data from Facebook. Okay, so maybe the whole world is clicking on your page, right? So you have a page that teaching Microsoft Excel. Whole world is clicking this page, and then this page, of course, is very famous. Then, or the Facebook, the company Facebook, actually need to deal with data that the user is coming from the whole world. Okay, so if they are using Excel, the velocity is very fast, the volume is very big, that would not be efficient enough. So usually in Excel, you can do something of like the prelim analysis. You can use for small to medium-sized data set or small to medium-sized company. For larger company, Excel may not be, depending on the usage, of course. Excel may not be too efficient. So certain things that is commonly used like Python or R now. Okay, so in Malaysia, R programming or Python, these two are the common one. Of course, overseas, you have other tools as well. Okay, so now a simple example here is to get a rough idea. So I have a data set that is here. So if you go to this part, you can see the text file. You can actually open up the text file and then see the data. Okay, right. So let me zoom in first, and then so this is the data from the text file. Okay. So any questions, you can just leave a message in the chat box. Don't worry. Okay, and then what we want to do here is that you see we get a very simple task. Go through this process on like understand the data, load into the Excel, do some calculation, do a visualization. Of course, everything in a very simplified version. Okay, so first thing, we want to understand the data, right? So open up the text file. One of the advantage of using Excel and also this kind of interface is that you can view the data directly. So if you are using Python or R programming, you need to be slightly more careful in dealing with these kind of things. So reading this part, you have like name, user, action, timestamp. So this is actually a data from Microsoft Teams attendance. Okay, so you have name 1, 2. How come 2 appear 2 times? Okay, so we check a little bit. So you see, the process is like we don't directly put everything into calculation and then keep on doing the calculation. The process is not like that. So we understand first, why is it? Because name should be unique, right? So it's like, for example, Chu Chun Yung. Of course, name could be duplicates lah. So you can change it to like IC number. So it should be unique. Okay. So how come it appear 2 times? Oh, okay. One is like join. One is when he or she left the meetings, right? So continue to see. Okay, seems like, how come this one has 3 times? Join, left join. So when this person actually leave the meeting again, you see, he joined like before 12 o'clock, 12:40, he left and then joined back, probably due to internet disconnection. But then he or she never leave the meeting. So that means he's still in the meeting until now, from last year to this year. This part we need to understand a little bit. Of course, you may not have used the Microsoft Teams before, so that is why I will let you know. So this is because he is still there, or he or she is still there until I end the meeting. So he never leave. I end the meeting before he or she leave. All right, so that's why you can see that the last time he joined is a join, not leave. So if, like for example, this student, okay, join and left. Okay, so he joined before the class started. Class should be 12 o'clock and then ends probably 2 o'clock, right? So he left like 10 minutes or 9 minutes earlier. So probably the class ended slightly earlier. Okay, should be Q&A session. So he has no question, so he left the class earlier. So it seems like, okay, this is a complete data. So this one has like truncated a little bit because he or she did not leave the meeting before I ended the class. Okay, right. So having understand this data row by row, now we look at column by column. Of course, first column is name. After that is user action, which is join or join before. Okay, so timestamp, it should be this one. Okay, so that means you have a date, you have a time. You have a date, you have a time. That is the timestamp. Okay, so 3 columns, right? So we want to import this data into Excel file and then do calculation and visualization. So how do we import the data to Excel file? You have actually a few ways. So we don't use import from text. This is a typo here. So you have a few ways depending on the data source, of course. So it's a text file or CSV file, then probably you will use text to column or import from text. So we will talk about this thing later. And then if it is PDF file, you want to copy to Excel file, you can use Flash Fill. I think you learned about Flash Fill yesterday as well. So all these different types of tools we will not cover here. So, but I give you this thing as like an what is that called? Introduction of what you can do with Microsoft Excel when you deal with different types of data. What are the tools? Okay, so you can, like for example, search import from web. Then you can see how do we import data from, for example, a website. Okay, so and so on. But we won't cover all these things here. So some of the things here I put it as like a references so that during holiday, if you have time, you want to learn more about Excel, you can learn some of the things here. Okay. Now we look at this part, text to columns. How do we deal with this example? This example, right? So one of the things is that I press Control A to select all, Control C to copy. Of course, this is like sort of like slightly manual way. You will have better way, but I leave that to you. Okay, so you can actually copy from text and then paste it here. Okay, so this is just the description. Right, so now moving to this copy from text worksheets, and then you can paste it here. So before you paste, let's see what you have copied. I use Control A, right? So included the header. So I will paste it at C9. Okay. Control V to paste it. You see, the column will be pasted nicely into 3 columns. 3 columns, correct? So Control A to select all, Control C to copy, Control V to paste. Okay. Right, so once you have pasted this data into the Excel file, let me put it here. All right, so you can see that, how come they can be pasted into 3 columns nicely? Why does Excel knows that you are actually looking at 3 columns in a text file? So one of the reason is that this is actually a tab. Let me highlight this one. You see, I select this cell, or you can select it like shift and then right hand side you select. It's actually one symbol. It's not a space, right? So it is not like space, for example, if I type in a 0 and then I use a space many times like this. Okay, so we are not typing spaces until here and then type join. Okay, it is not like this. Okay, so you don't have to amend or alter the file. So I'm just showing you what is a tab. So for example, 0, and then I press a tab on the keyboard. You see, I press a tab on the keyboard. So one time only. So it will jump to here. So that is a tab. So tab here, I use a tab. So it's called delimiter. Should be like this. Okay, so it is a delimiter tab. So Excel by default, every tab, they will read it as new column. So that is why you can see that you have 3 columns here because you have 1 tab, 2 tabs. Okay, so 2 tabs, so 3 columns because you only need 2 separated in between, right? That's why this part cannot be separated into new column because this is not a tab. This is a space, white space. Okay, it's a white space and a comma. White space and a comma. Okay, so that is why you can see that it will be pasted into 3 columns, but not 4 columns. Okay, right. So now once you have pasted it into 3 columns, what you can do here is that you can actually, we want to split it into like date and time. Okay. Again, I paste it. This column, I want to split into date and time. So how do we deal with this thing? Again, most of the times when you deal with Excel, if you are not too sure and you think that, hey, I have to do this manually, the same work one by one. So you may want to check again, is there a better way? So for example, we don't want to like cut this one and then paste it here. Again, like this, okay? So we don't want to do manually one by one. So how do we split it into 2 columns? We use text to column, okay? So how do we use text to column? I think I put in some of the screenshot as well. Should be over here, okay? So you can follow some of the screenshot on the right-hand side as well. Okay, so let me move back here. So this part, first thing, I will go through together. Of course, if you are a little bit faster, you can follow the screenshot, proceed. Okay, I select the whole column. How do I select the whole column? Actually, I use Control-Shift down, some of the keyboard shortcut. So you see, I click here, and then Control-Shift down, it will select the whole column. Okay, only one time, don't press 2 times, otherwise it will go until the end. Okay, so Control-Shift down 1 time only. Let me press a lot of escape, okay? I will illustrate one more time. Okay, observing that I click here. So it's selecting E10 now, Control-Shift down only 1 time, okay? So it will select the whole column. Okay, now once you have selected the whole column, you can use mouse to navigate also, of course. Then you can go to data and then text to column over here. Okay, data tab, text to column. Click at this one, you will see new window pop up. So let me zoom in and then we can see in a larger screen. Oh, okay. So once you click text to column, there are 2 options. One is fixed width, one is delimited. So fixed width is basically saying that, okay, if you know that every column, every row has like 6 characters, 1 column, 6 characters, you can use that. So don't follow this part. I illustrate to you what is fixed width. Okay. sorry, not feeling very well today. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, so let's go to this fixed width here. I click next. This part you don't have to follow. You can just look at the screen and then see what will happen. I click next. So you will see 1 line here. Actually, I can move around, like I move it here. So what this line does is that saying that, okay, this is the first column, you see the separator, one column, two columns. Okay, so if you want to add more columns, can we do so? Yes, you can add one more here. Okay, I click left click here. So left click, click, click. So you can add a lot of columns. Okay, so that is fixed width. So you can actually double click to remove the column that you added. Okay, this is double click. Not too sure if you can hear the sound. Let me. You move to this part, and then this part you don't have to follow because it's not a good way. Okay, so if let's say we split in this way, I will just show you what will happen. So you don't have to follow. I can continue to click next. And then let me move up a bit. This part, the next screen, this screen is to do formatting. So the date here, we will choose Monday year. So I will explain to you why later. Okay, then you can now click finish. Okay, so I will show you what is the click OK here. You see, this is like what I did manually just now, copy, cut and paste to here, right? But you have a comma here. I don't want the comma to be here. I don't want the comma to be here. So what can I do? What can I do? So we don't use fixed width. We use delimiters. Okay, so let me undo. And then, of course, now you can follow together what we will be doing. Okay. Right, so don't use fixed width. We will use delimited, the first one, and then click next. Okay, so this part you can follow together. And then once you click next, you will realize that, okay, this screen allows you to set the delimiters. Observe here, this part. What is this? A tab, right? So we mentioned just now, a tab is by default a delimiters. So that's why you see this is being selected. If you don't want that, you can uncheck it or untick it. So we want a comma, okay? If you have others, you can click here and then type others like asterisk. If you have other delimiters, that means delimiter is like separator. So what is the difference here is that you see, let me move this one to the other side first. Observe this part, the preview here. I remove everything. I remove the comma as well. You see the comma is there, right? So if I take this comma will become a new column. So no longer having comma there. Okay, if you don't want comma to be there, you can use this one. If you use fixed width just now, it will count how many characters or how many numbers and then cut it just like that. Okay, so now click next. Okay, so this part here, you can actually make sure that the first column is the date MDY. So what is MDY here? Month, day, year. Because if you read this part, this is month, day, year, correct? So you want to change it. Okay, so why I mentioned that we have to do it this way, I will tell you later. So now we follow this part first. I will explain what is a date and time format in Excel later. Okay, now you can click finish here. Make sure that you use MDY. Otherwise, if your computer setting is following other countries, you may be having like different setting. Okay, so click finish. And then, of course, it will show you there's already data here. Do you want to replace it? What does this sentence mean? Because you are doing a text to column, one column to two columns, right? And then the two columns, the new two columns, will replace the original this column. Are you sure? Then we click OK. So you see the new column will replace the original data. And now we have this in two columns, nicely separated. Nicely separated. So it looks fine now, right? And then what happened here? Why do I have this column G over here? Okay, so the reason why we have column G over here is because after you have do the separation, right? So let's go back to here again. You see, this separator should be two characters or two symbols, right? One is comma, one is white space, okay? But then, because we can only use comma just now, so you should have a white space in front of the time. Okay, let's see, is it correct? press F2, you can go into editing mode, and then you can see that there's a white space here. Okay, so the white space actually costs one thing. Make this thing to become a text. Okay, a number you won't have white space, right? You won't say I have 1,234. Sorry, not comma. 1 space 234. You won't have that. You will have 1, 2, 3, 4. But if you have a space there, it becomes a text, right? So like today is Sunday. You have a space in front and behind the is. Okay, so space is basically changing this thing into a text. Remember the first thing that we mentioned just now? Anything you key in into a cell is either a value, a text, or a formula. So definitely, or obviously, these two columns, they are not formula. So they are either a text or a number. So bear in mind, if you want a valid date format or a valid time format in Excel, they have to be a number. They have to be a number. Why? Because let's say today is 15 June. Let's say today is 15 June. I add 1. 15 June plus 1. I need to get 16 June, right? So you can do operation on plus, minus, then it should be a number. Okay, so before we proceed, I will start a brand new Excel to illustrate this concept to you. Okay, right? So probably some of you may have used Excel before, but a bit confused about this date in Excel. Okay, so let me zoom in first. Can I move down further? Okay, right. So one of the things that you may want to be slightly take note is that observe the panel here. The bottom, the bar, right? You have the time. It's 10:30 now, and then you have the date. So you see the date on the screen in my system is month, day, year, correct? So which is why the text file you see just now is month, day, year. So you may see day, month, year in your Excel file after you do text to column just now. So, but that is fine. It depends on the system setting. Okay, so that means what? That means when you want to type in a date in your Excel file, right? So usually, for example, today is 19 October. I can see from here. So in Excel, I won't type. Of course, we know that in Malaysia, we use day, month, year, right? We follow the UK style. So we should be typing it in this way. But because my system setting is in US format, this one is not a valid date format in my Excel. Okay, so to system, this is not let me zoom out a bit first. Okay, so this is actually not a text, not a number. Okay. Before that, you need to make sure date and time is a number. I will show you why it is a number. It's number. Date and time, they are numbers. Okay. So this is not a date in my system. Of course, in your system may have been formatted in the way, or the system locale is set day, month, year, then that is a date. Okay, so I'm saying that this is not a date in my system. So because my system is using month, day, year. Okay, then this is a date, a valid date actually. Okay. Okay, right. So why do we say that this is not a date? How do we check? Easiest way to check whether this date is a correct one or not, you use like certain function that you can use like day, month, or year. That means the function actually return you or extract the year of the date. For example, year, this year function of this one. So what it does is that it will tell you 2021 if it is correct. Copy this one to here, you will see that this is correct. So you see, Excel cannot actually differentiate, interchange for you. change the order for you, which is why I mentioned just now, you have to do the formatting month, day, year for the text to column. Okay, so that is the difference here. So this is not a valid date, this is a date. So how do we know that they are values or numbers? So formula to check is number. So if you use is number and then to this one, then you will know that whether this is a number or not. It's a false, it's a true. True means it is a number. False means it is not a number. Okay, so this is actually a number. So before, without using this one, also okay. You can actually do a formatting, like select this one. I can actually format them to a number. You see, I put a comma style. So this one changed to number, this one does not. So this is actually a text, the first one. Of course, in your system, maybe the other way around. Okay, so it could be the other way around. So also, if it is a number, then you can do a addition. This one plus 1 should be 20th October, but you get a error. This one is a number. So how do we change this one? Click this one, change it to date. So you see, it is a date. Okay, so this part here, you observe that 44,489 is equivalent to 20th October 2021. Why? This is because a number 1 is actually 1st January 1900. Okay, so that is the setting here. 1 is this number, it's this date. A number 2 is this date. I type in this way, January. Okay. So this one is basically 44,000 after what is the number again? 44,489 days starting from 1st January 1900. Okay, so that is the reason why date is actually a number. Okay, so how about time? Time is also the same thing actually, because it is just the decimal. So for example, 44489, right? So 44489, you know that this number is actually a date. If I press a 0.5, what is the difference? What will this number be? Okay, so let's see the formatting. You can actually change it to a short date. It's still the same thing, but you can change it to time. You can see that it's 12 p.m. because half day, right? So a number 1 is like 24 hours. So 0.5 is 12 hours starting from 12 a.m. So starting of the 30th October, 0.5 days later, which is 12 hours later. So you get into the 12 p.m. Okay, so date and time are numbers. So that is the reason here. So over here now, this is actually not a number because you have a white space here. How do we remove all the white spaces in front of this text here? One of the ways is you do a trim. So what is this trim function for? Trim function is basically for you to trim out the white spaces in front and behind the text. Okay, so for example, if let's say sometimes you have the word like this, apple, right? So that is fine. But if you have APPLE space, so it's different. These two words is different now. Although by a human eye, we see these two things as the same, but they are different. Why? You see, no white space, one white spaces, one white space, right? So if you check that this one is equal to this one, you will get a false because it is not the same. So until you remove the white space, then it will become a true. Okay, so they are very sensitive with white spaces. So you have white space in front, you may have a white space and then only apple. So this one, of course, you can see a little bit difference, like alignment off a bit, right? So you may suspect that you have one white space here. So how do we remove the white space here? You can use what you learned yesterday, Control H, to find and replace. But sometimes you have a lot of times like this is an apple. You don't want to replace it or remove all the white spaces. So you only want to remove the white spaces in front at the beginning or at the end of the text. So we use the trim function. Trim of this one. Then let me copy down. You can see that all the white spaces will be removed. Okay, now you check this one equal to this one or not. It's a true. Okay, while just now if you check, let's move this one here. This one and this one, they are different. Okay, they are different. Okay, why? Because this one you have one white space behind, right? So same thing here, you can also check whether this one and this one the same or not. They should be the same because both of them have no white space in front or behind. So that is the function trim. Okay, so now we want to remove this white space. So we use trim function, it will actually remove that. Trim of this one. Press enter. Okay. So I put in some comments here also, so you can also like if you want you can follow. But one of the things here is that usually this kind of situation I will make a multiply by 1. Okay, why do I do a multiplication of 1 here? Because after I trim the white space, right? So one thing to take note here is that this trim function is a text function. So what is a text function? Like when you do with apple white space, you trim it, you get apple, right? So that is the text function. You put in a text, you get a text, okay? But a time we mentioned just now, it should be a number. It should be a number, okay? So you multiply by 1, you force Excel to change this thing to number and then do the multiplication, okay? So to elaborate this one clearer, so like a number 1, this is a number, right? I type in a 1 only, so this is a number. If I type in a 1 space, this will be, okay, Excel remove the space for me, space 1. Never mind. Okay, so this one has 3 white spaces here. Of course, you see one apostrophe. This one is just the way we make Excel to force Excel to read everything as a text. Okay, so this is actually a text, not a number. Then of course we can do a trim function here. Trim of this one. You see, no more white spaces, no more white space. This one will have no more white spaces. I have trimmed it, but after you trim it, this is a number or text. We use its number to check again, right? It is not a number, so it is a text. Why is it a text? Because trim function, after you trim a text, return you a text. So how do you make this thing to become a number? So let's use this thing again. I want to make sure that I do some changes to here. For example, +0. Then Excel will try to read the output of the trim function as a number and then do the +0 or multiply by 1. Because you know that a number multiplied by 1, you get back itself. A number +0, you get back itself also. So either you use a +1, +0 or multiply by 1. You see this becomes true, becomes a number. So over here is also the same thing. I want to make sure that the trim function gives me the number so that I can do calculation later on. So we do a multiplication of 1. It becomes decimal. That is what we want. So you can actually double click now. We will talk about the formatting later, don't worry. So let me scroll to here, to the right. Move your cursor to the bottom right of the selected cell. Let me scroll back. Okay, right here. So move your cursor here, double click, send this thing down. Okay, after you send down, you realize that they will send also the formatting. You see the border also send down. If you don't want the border to send down, you can actually move your cursor to the this part, click at this button, fill without formatting. Okay, flash fill is what you learned yesterday. So click fill without formatting. Then formula will be sent down and without the formatting. Okay, right. So now with this formatted, then you can see that, okay, so, sorry, too much. Now I change the time from this column F to column G in decimal. So go to Home tab to do the formatting again, to change it back to a time. You get exactly the same. But the difference between column F and column G now is that column F has one white space in front, and also it is a text. Column G has no white space, and we successfully change it to number. So why do you want to change it to number? So that you can calculate, like, for example, every student joined into the class for how many hours. Okay, right? So we can actually do a subtraction. If it is a text, like what we mentioned earlier, Sunday minus Monday doesn't work. Okay, you cannot do it in this way. But 7 minus 1, you can do that. Okay, so it's the same thing here. A text minus another text does not work because it's undefined. But a number minus another number, you can do that easily, and by default, this is defined. Okay, so that is what we have here for this part. So copy from the text file, paste into the Excel, do a text to column to get 2 columns, use trim function, multiply by 1 to change column F to column G. So that is sort of like the extract. So extract basically is where you get this. Hey, where's the cursor? Where you get this text file. Okay, I extract from Microsoft Teams. Okay, so after I extract and then I understand the data, I load it to Excel, I do some cleaning, and then after that, you start to do analysis, like how many students join in late, how many students leave earlier, and so on. So you can actually do something like a chart. Okay, so of course, all these are calculated. We won't go into details, it's just to show, like it's a frequency chart or histogram kind of things. So you can see that, well, a lot of students are actually in between, like near to 2 hours, right? So half an hour, 1 hour, 1.5 hour, 2 hours. So this is like the frequency chart. Okay, so that is some of the calculation here. Of course, you do some calculation on the left-hand side, you present the data or your result in right-hand side. So a lot of time when you present the result to your boss or to your superior or do a presentation, most of the time you may not want to show the whole table like this or the whole data to your boss or to the CEO. You go and see this data. So I already extract and clean up. You look at it yourself. So usually CEO don't have this kind of time to read all these things. So what they can have is that you show them very intuitively, directly. They look at that, okay, they think that, okay, this class is very good. Like most of them attended almost 2 hours. Very good. Okay, so of course, we are talking about, if let's say business, then you talk about sales, performance, the staff KPI, and so on. So it depends on situation, but that is basically this one. So we will talk about more of the chart, like the element of the charts later on in the last part of this workshop. Okay, so this is like sort of like a process here. So we are using the histogram. Okay, so this one, I'm not using histogram, but I use COUNTIF function or formula to get this one. So if you are using 2013 and prior, the version, so you can actually use Analysis 2-pack add-ins, or you use COUNTIF or COUNTIF's formula. So of course, we have not talked about the formulas. So this is the calculation. As you can see from here, these are like the calculation. Of course, sometimes you see some of the weird what is that called? calculation. Why is there a 13 here? Why is there a 13 here? Because the class is 2 hours. How come this student has 13 hours? So you may need to check this thing also. Go to here, student number 2, right? So let's check again. So because it is joined before, so you may want to change this thing to join so that this thing becomes okay, more reasonable, right? Okay, so that is the first part here. The formula here is we won't cover here because it's too complicated. I leave it here so that for those interested, you can actually play around and then try to see what you can get from here. Okay, so that is the ETL process. Okay, so before that, let me move to here. Number. Yes. Okay, so any questions so far? Okay, so if no questions, we will take a 5 minutes break and for washroom. We will continue back later. So let me. Okay, right. So that is the time. So we will continue 10:52. Okay, so I will see you later. And then, of course, meanwhile, if you have any questions, you can directly drop a message in the chat box. We will talk about that after the 5 minutes break. Sorry, I see you in 5 minutes time. So 10:52. Okay, welcome back, and let me adjust the, okay, right, so let's go back to, let me change back to here. So again, if you have any questions, you can leave a message in the chat box. So now moving on to the, so for this file, right, so the flow will be from the left to the right, so we will slowly move on from one to one. Okay. So this part is basically on flash view. You can actually, it's just optional part because you have learned flash view yesterday, right? So bear in mind, flash view also only start or available for 2013 and onwards. So if you are using 2010, you may not have the flash view features. So what is the flash view? We won't go through everything here. I will just go through a little bit and show you what are the things that you can do using formula. So if you want to join the names together, like last name and first name, so you can type it on the column E, right? So I have put down this example. Then you can select the range and then like for example here, Control E to flash fill down. Okay, so that is one way. Another way is you can also, okay, right? So another way is you can double click here, select the first cell, double click. So you can see that I sent down the formula. And then again, go to the bottom here, bottom right. You can see this this part, click. And then just now, remember we click fill to without formatting. Now you can choose flash fill. So how does this flash fill work? Flash fill work basically in this kind of like so-called algorithm or the pseudo algorithm. So Excel will try to discover what you are trying to try to guess the pattern that you want from column left or right. Okay, so in this case, you can see that we have a sort of like a table kind of view in this three columns CDE. So you type in E, so Excel will try to find out what are the formula that you want in column C to D. Okay, then when you select the whole thing or you double click and then choose flash fill or Control E to send down the flash fill, right? So Excel will, based on the first one that you type, check here, okay, you want to combine these two texts with a white space. So Excel do it for you for all the rows. So that is flash fill. So sometimes flash fill, you may be able to get that. You may not be able to get Excel to guess the pattern for you. So you may want to use a formula. Okay. So for example, instead of combining two texts together, can I do something different? For example, j.frank. So we can try to see Excel can guess the pattern or not. So seems like it's quite good, the algorithm. So you can see that everything is correctly filled down, right? So that is flash fill. So JF, can we do so? So we select the whole range and then E. Looks good, right? So Excel can actually guess the pattern and then try to complete for you. So that is flash fill. So you learned about that yesterday. So these are some of the other example that you can actually play around. Okay. So I will leave this thing to you, and then so table trees, it could be a more interesting, like Zach Frank. Right, so from email address and the first name, you want to type down this thing. We try, and then you see flash fill actually can do this thing for you. It's quite amazing. Okay, so this is one of the techniques that you can use to do some data cleaning. Okay, but bear in mind one thing is that when you talk about flash fill, like this one, then of course you can do a flash fill here. But flash fill, the problem is that if next time I change the name here, for example, my name, right? So the result is not changed. The result is not changed. So flash fill is not formula based. It's not formula based. Okay. So you can see that if I update the data, the cleaning part I need to redo again. You need to delete this one first. Select again. Right. So then you only get to what you need. Okay. That is the problem with flash fill because it is not formula based. Okay, so now we look at if we want to use formula, can we do so? So I basically also inserted some comments here. You can follow the comment, or let me here, right? Copy paste, double click to send the formula down, or you can use F2 control enter. This is always what I'm using because it won't copy down the formula, the formatting. Let's look at the formula. Press F2. So what is this concatenate function doing? Basically, if I delete it, you have the formula with you, so you can just watch the screen. Okay, so equal. Concatenate is actually a function to join different texts together. Okay, so like for example, concatenate, you can see that there are two types here. I probably need to zoom in a bit. Concate. Okay, so the first one you see, concate, is basically for a newer version. If I remember correctly, it should be 2019 and onwards. So if you are using 2016 and prior, you don't have the concate function. We are not using this one also. So we use this concatenate. Observe that I can actually use arrow key to select. I don't have to type in everything. So you see, I use my arrow key to go down. Okay, so it shows the down, right? So then I press a tab to complete this one. Okay, concatenate. So I don't have to type in the whole thing, put in the bracket. Now, let me zoom out. And then we select this last name, comma, put a comma to move to the next word. And then let's say if I select this one and then press enter, you can see that I can join these two texts together without the white space in between. So how do we want to have a white space or few white spaces in between? You put in this part here. So just now until here, right? So the last name, comma, this quotation mark, white space, close the quotation mark. So just like what is being shown here. Okay. And then put in a comma again, and then click at the frank and press enter. So by this, you read the formula, you see blue color, white space, red color. Blue color, white space, red color. Okay. So that is what you need. Then you can select the whole range. Let me zoom out a bit. So then you can see that I can actually select the whole range. Okay, press F2, Control, Enter. So I send the formula down. So this is actually the same as like you double click. And then click here, fill without formatting. Okay, so sometimes I prefer to use this Control Enter because I don't have to redo the formatting. Okay. So anyway, that is what we have for the concatenate function. It's one of the techniques for you to deal with text or the text manipulation. Okay, there are a lot of other functions that you can actually deal with, but we check like over here we deal with like concatenate, lower, left, and proper. So this one is basically for all other example. Okay, so some other example like left, mid, right. Also, the three functions that you can actually explore if you want to use Excel to deal with this kind of text or data cleansing process. Okay. So the concatenate is being used like this. Of course, you can also do it in another way, which is using the ampersand symbol. Okay. So this one I will just quickly show you what it is. Right. So equal to the last name. I use the ampersand symbol. This is like a glue joined together, and then the white space, no comma, ampersand symbol again, or the and symbol. right? And then the frank, and then press enter. You get exactly the same as concatenate function also. Okay, so to join two texts of multiple texts together, you can actually use ampersand symbol, use concatenate function or concate function if your version has concate. Okay, so you can press Control Enter to send the formula down. That is for this part here. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can leave a message in the chat box. Okay, right. So after the flash fill, then there are more things about this ETL processes, like how you want to deal with the data, import the data, clean the data, and so on. So remember or recall the example we have from this not this one. Let me close this one first. From this part, copy from text, right? So you copy from text to Excel. So basically you load it to Excel file, that kind of idea. And then you split it, you clean the data, change the text, which is column F, to a number, which is column G. And then you do the calculation. Column F, you change to column G. You do the calculation, and then you present with a chart. So that is like more or less like the process when you do some data analysis until you get some conclusion. So in the process of extracting the data, these are some of the tools that you can use. So we won't go into details because of time, lack of time. And then Power Query is basically a very useful tools that you can use. So for 2016 and onwards, Power Query is actually inbuilt. 2010 and 2013, if you need to use that, you can download from Microsoft website. But Microsoft has already decided to stop maintaining this add-in. Okay, so if you are using 2010 and 2013, your features may not be up to date. But anyway, this is also additional information that if you need or if you want to learn during your school holiday, you can learn this Power Query. It is a very useful tool. Okay, so I put in some of the information here just for extra information. Okay, now on data cleansing part and also management, like cleaning the data, that is what we did just now using the flash fill and also concatenate function, right? So you may want to like join the text together or split the text from email address and so on. Okay, so you can actually use formula or flash fill or depending on the usage. So one thing that we forgot to mention is that when you use formula, the advantage is that if you change the name here, you can see that the result change accordingly. Okay, so that is the advantage you have using formula. So flash fill is easy. That is the advantage. Formula is dynamic. That is the advantage of using formula. So depending on your situation, you may want to choose flash fill or formula accordingly. Usually for myself, I will use flash fill if, let's say, I think that I will only do these kind of things for one time, then flash fill. If I need to use this thing for multiple times, for example, when you are working, every month you have to prepare a report, right? So you may want to use formula because next time you copy the data, paste into it, you get a new result already. So you don't have to repeat the work again. So that is the difference between these two. Okay. Right, so again, let me close this one. Now back to this part here. So there are more items that you can actually use to clean up the data. Like for example, VLOOKUP, when you want to merge two tables together. Power Query is very powerful in doing all these kind of things, but we won't talk about that in this workshop. Okay, you can use VLOOKUP, pivot table to summarize the data, group, ungroup, and also subgroup of data and so on. So we will look at a few of them in this workshop also, and then in a simple one. So VLOOKUP is a famous function, similar with HLOOKUP. So of course, there are also XLOOKUP, which is available in 365. So you can read more about that. This is actually a hyperlink. You can click and read this link here. Okay, but we will only cover VLOOKUP because VLOOKUP function available in, I think, since 2007 or 2003 version of Excel. So it is actually like available in almost every version that you have in the market. Okay, so it's actually quite useful to learn this thing before you learn up what is XLOOKUP. Also, HLOOKUP. HLOOKUP is the same as VLOOKUP. So what is VLOOKUP is basically saying that, okay, you want to match a value in a table and the table is placed vertically. So what is vertically here? Okay, let's look at one example. So you see, this is also like trying to mimic one of the situation when you have data from multiple sources. So the first table, like this is a table of student names and then what they study and then what is the result and then how much fee they paid and so on. Of course, all these are synthetic data. That means I randomly created. That's why you can see the numbers are like 10, 20, 30,000, 40,000. Okay, so these are synthetic. Okay, and then for here, let's move this one a bit first. I will talk about this thing later. So let me adjust this one because somehow it blocks the view. Okay, right. So what we want is that we want to know based on the CGPA, what is the classification? Like, is this A, B, C, D, the grade, something like the grade over here? Okay, and then based on the program, we want to know what is the fees. Okay, so these two columns, you can actually merge it from these two tables using VLOOKUP function. Okay, so V stands for vertical, HLOOKUP stands for horizontal. So what are the things that is vertical? You are trying to search, for example, D. Right, so you try to search D and inside this column. Right, so you see the program that you are trying to search is inside a table that you place the program vertically. So that is VLOOKUP. So most of the time, data is presented in this way. Every row is one data. So you may want to use VLOOKUP instead of HLOOKUP. Okay. So these two parts here, total fees is easy. Classification is a little bit harder. Okay. It may be a bit confusing, but that is fine. We will explain a little bit. If you think that HLOOKUP is a little bit confusing, that is fine. You don't have to be too worried about that. Most of the time, we might be using this version of VLOOKUP. Okay, before we proceed, we first look at what is VLOOKUP first. Okay, not here, sorry. Let me use, where's the Excel file? This one. Right, so before we proceed, I will type in this VLOOKUP VLO and then I press a tab, right? So you can see that this is the VLOOKUP function. So usually when you type in a function in Excel file, you will have this small tooltip here. You can see the white color, small, this one. Okay, so what it is showing is that you have four arguments, lookup value. You can actually click and then see what is that. Lookup value, table array, column index number, range lookup. So first thing, lookup value is what you want to search, like program D just now. Table array is the table 2 just now, that ABCD refers to the fees 10, 20, 30, 40,000. Column index number is where you want to, which column you want to return. Okay, range lookup here can be true or false. So we will use this thing later. Okay, most of the time you will use a false. Okay, and then One thing to take note here is that this is VLOOKUP function that has 4 arguments. We will go through this thing in the 2 columns together. Okay. So one thing to take note here is that if you want to search a D, the D here must be unique in this column, and it must be in the most left column. Okay. So VLOOKUP cannot go backwards. That means go to the left-hand side. It can only go to the right-hand side. Okay. So like, for example, if let's say the table is placed in this way, then you cannot use VLOOKUP to return 10,000 or 20,000 for B. So it doesn't work this way anymore. Okay, so you have to reverse the order. That is one thing, one way. Another way is you can use XLOOKUP if you have the function, or you can use lookup function, or you can use index match. There are a few different ways, but we will look at VLOOKUP only. Okay, so this is the first thing. You need to make sure that the column you are searching is always on the left-hand side. Okay, and then second thing is that what you are searching must be unique. For example, if you have 2 programs C and then different fees, right? So Excel will only return the first one. It won't return the second one. So that means this C will not be returned. So we will look at that later also. Okay, right? So now look at column G. So how do we deal with this thing? I type in this VLOOKUP. Maybe I zoom in a bit more. Right. So type in this VLOOKUP function. Lookup value. I click at this D and then press a comma. Okay. And then select this one. Do we need to select the header like program and fees? Not necessary. You can select like this also. Okay, so whether you include the header or not too important, because you are only searching the yellow color cell, right? So you see what you are searching is here. What you want to, the value that you want to put in column G must be on the right hand side. Okay, so I move to the right hand side. This one you need to press F4 one time. Press F4 one time. I will illustrate if without F4 what will happen later. Press comma now. Okay. So let me do it one more time. VLOOKUP and then a tab. So VLO tab and then click this one. Press comma. Select all this thing and then press F4. Okay. Press a comma. Which column you want to return? This is column 1. This is column 2, right? So you want to get second column. Type in a 2. Put in a comma. Over here, it is either a true or false. Let us see what is a true false here. I put a comma. True is approximate matching. False is exact matching. You want a false because you want to match exactly A, B, C, D. You don't want to do approximate matching. So we will talk about approximate matching later. So use a false here. Don't do a typo here. FALSE, right? So a false. Okay, let me zoom out. Press enter, and then you can double click this one, send the formula down. Okay, so everything is okay now. So that is how you use VLOOKUP to merge the information from here into the table. So first thing, we want to illustrate what if I change this one to D. Observe what will happen here. Let me highlight, change the font color in red. Okay, so what if I change this one to D and I press enter? You see this one become 30,000, right? It won't return you the second D. So which is why we say that what you have here must be unique. So if let's say you are searching like student names and then their result, maybe you don't want to do that because name could be having the same name. You can use student ID or IC number, then they will be unique. Okay, so sometimes you don't want to use VLOOKUP on something that could be having duplicates because it will never give you the second one. Excel won't know this D is this one or this one. They will only give you the first one if you are using exact matching. Okay, so let's change this thing back to C. Any question on this thing so far? Okay, so if no question, then we will move to the illustration here on what if we don't put in the F4 over here, right? So let me delete this one. We try one more time. Of course, this one you don't have to follow because just now that one is correct one. So this is just illustration. So I do a VLOOKUP on this D, and then I select this table, right? And then comma 2, comma false. Everything is the same as what we did just now, except for that the table range is not locked. Now, if you double click, send this formula down, you will get a lot of error here. What is NA? NA means not available. Why is it not available? Because the table range actually moves accordingly as you copy down. So eventually you see the table range actually moved out of the table already. So you don't want this thing to happen, you need to lock the table. So most of the time, whether your table is, you will do a VLOOKUP on a long table or anything, you can always lock it as a safety pin. Okay, so you always lock this thing. The table array, always lock it and then send it down. So then this will be the correct one. So without the F4, you can see that the range will move down. So you will get some NA error over there. Okay, so this is exact matching, slightly easier. On the second part here, the H here, you will realize one issue. If let's say, what is the function of comma 2, comma? Okay, you mean the whole function? So this is for G13. Okay, so let's look at this one here is that the comma 2, the first comma 2 here is basically saying that I want to place the value here in this second column. So sometimes your table has more than 2 columns, right? So you can specify, like for example, if I change this to 1, what happened? It will return me the first column, which is this part, D. Okay, so why is it D? Excel will actually work in this way. You check and see, I mean, you can visualize in this way. We are searching D, right? So this is like a printed paper, a very big paper on your table. You may search vertically down in this column, right? A, B, C, D, and then stop. And then you say, okay, the person asked me to check column 1. Okay, it's D, then D. Okay, so if let's say we change this to 2, then what happened here is that we check vertically down. Okay, it's a D. The person asked me to check column 2, then column 2. Column 2 is here, right? It's 40,000. So I tell them 40,000. Okay, so that is the 2 here. Of course, if you think that, okay, can we change this thing to 3? You can't because the table array is here. Has only 2 columns. If you put it in the 3, what happened? It will be reference error. That means you are referring to something out of the reference, right? So you are referring to 2 columns table, and you ask Excel, hey, can you tell me what is the third column? There's no third column in the table that you define, this table. There's no third column, so you can't actually, how to say, ask Excel to tell you what is the third column. So that is the 2 and 3 here. And then every comma is actually a separator, like you move from one argument to another argument. It's like parameter. So when we learn function fx, right? So that is one function. You may have fxy. So the comma here is just served like the same as the comma in the function. It's not this comma. This comma is 1000 separator. In this function, you see there's a comma. So you can view like this. VLOOKUP is like function f. So this is x, y, z, w, w, x, y, z, something like that. Okay, so it's a function that has 4 variables inside. So that is what you have here. Okay, and the last function or does argument here is like the Z variable. It's either 1 or 0. So true or false. False is 0. True is 1 actually. So you can put in a 0 also. That is fine. But we standardize it to false. Okay. So using a false means you want exact match. That means if suddenly we say that, hey, this student is program E, you get an A. You get an A. Because there's no E inside here, right? No E inside here. So you get not available. If let's say you change the false to true, what will happen? You get 40,000, but you don't have program E, right? So that is very interesting and a bit weird because you don't have program E, but you say that E has 40,000 the fees. That is not true. This is actually a data input error. It should be program D. So let's change the formula back. So that's why, which is why we mentioned that most of the time you will be using false instead of true, because true is approximate matching. E is nearest to D, so they will tell you what is D. Okay, so that is approximate matching. Then change this thing back to D, you get 40,000. Okay, so that is the total fees that you have here. Let me move back. Okay, right. So now we look at the second column here on classification. You will realize that, hey, if I want to do this classification, right? I mean, based on the CGPA, it's like the marks. So you remember, you get 80 marks and above, you maybe get a grade A, and then like 50 marks and below, you have a fail, right? So now we have a CGPA here. It's the same thing. It's like a pointer. So just imagine you have a result of 0 to 4. Okay, so if you get score of 4, it's like 100 marks. 0 is like 0 marks. Below 2 is a fail, something like that. Okay, so now if we classify them in this way, so we do a classification. So all these are students graduated with their result. So we say, okay, they get a distinction if their CGPA is above 3.67. If they are CGPA or the result is between 3 to 3.6, less than 3.67. So it's a merit. And then after that, above 2 is honors degree. So you may ask what happened below 2. Below 2 is fail, right? So the student has to score above 2 to graduate. Okay. So now, if using this classification, how do we, you see, this is actually a range, not just like the table 1 just now, table 2, is a text or an indicator. So it's a range. How do we tell Excel that, hey, you help me to check whether this number is in this range or not, or in this column, which row, right? So it's very hard for Excel to determine in this case if it is a range. So one of the ways is that, of course, you can use if function. We won't cover that here. Another way is we can use VLOOKUP function. But in order to use VLOOKUP function, we also talked about that just now. VLOOKUP, you must match exactly, right? 2.0483. 2.0483, do you have it here? You know that it is actually in this range, but it is impossible for you to list all the numbers from 2.0000 and then 2.0001, 2.0002, and until 4.000. So you will take a lot of rows to do that and a lot of effort. So one of the easier way is use VLOOKUP. So we have to transform this orange color table to something like table 3. So you see, difference between table 3 and the source here is that we place it upside down from smallest to largest. So that is the first thing if you want to use VLOOKUP with approximate matching. So over here, we will be using approximate matching. Okay, so this approximate matching, first thing, you need to sort it in ascending order. If you are using XLOOKUP, that is fine. You can use descending order. But VLOOKUP, you must use it in ascending order. Okay, so second thing, in this case, we use the lower bound. That means the number, smallest number. Okay, so for example, honest is this one, right? 2 until about near to 3, not below 3. So you use the lower bound, which is the left-hand side here, 2. You put it here. 3 to 3.67, below 3.67. So you put a 3 here. So it's like every time you move into a new state, right? So 3.67, you move into a new state. 3, you move into a new state, something like that. Okay, so now we change from the source to table 3. Then we can use VLOOKUP with false true argument. Now let's try. VLOOKUP of this value. Now you are searching CGPA, right? No longer program. Put a comma and then select this table. Okay, so with or without header also same. Press F4. Remember to press F4 to lock it. Put a comma again. Which column you want to return? The second column. Put in a comma again. The last argument, true, false. Just now we use false for the column, right? So this part should be true. I will just illustrate what is a false here. I get distinction. I use a false. It seems like okay, right? 3.67 should be a distinction. Let's check again. Correct, ma? But if you drag the formula down, you will get an A. Why? Because I can actually hide these columns so that we can see it side by side. Okay, right? So why is it an A? Because 2.0483 is not inside here. You see, it's not inside here. So what we want to do is we want to use a true argument, approximate matching. Then by doing so, if you copy this formula down, okay, right, you get honest, right? Correct. So this is what we want. So why is this honest degree here? You see, 2.0483 nearer to this one, right? So you may want to check what happened if 2.7903, the row number 18 here. So we can try this one, drag until here, and then see what happened. Okay. A bit hard to drag. Huh? Okay. Right, so it is still honest, but 2.7903 is actually nearer to 3, right? So Excel is actually not searching which number is nearer. They are not searching which number is nearer. They are searching which number is the largest number that is smaller than what you are searching. Sounds a bit weird, but let's say if you look at 3.3, this number, okay, 3.3842. What is the largest number that is smaller than 3.3842? You have three choices, 2, 3, 3.6, right? 3.6 is greater than this one, correct? So out. 2 and 3, they are both less than this one. Okay, then for those less than this one, choose the largest, 3. So you get a 3, you get married. Okay, so that is how the VLOOKUP with approximate matching works. Of course, in detail, how the binary search works, we won't cover here. You can search online the binary search of Excel VLOOKUP if you are interested to understand why it must be in ascending order. Okay, so now you double click, send the formula down, you completed this table. Okay, so that is how you complete this one. So H13, I can give you the formula through the chat as well. So any questions, you can let me know as well, H13. Okay, so observe that this is using true, the previous one is using false. Okay, so that is for VLOOKUP function that you can actually merge two different tables together. Again, if you are using exact matching, make sure that it must be unique. Exact matching is like table 2 just now, okay? This column must be unique. If you are using approximate matching, this column, of course, still need to be unique, In addition, you have to sort it in ascending order, okay? And that is for approximate matching. Both of them, you must place them in the most left column, okay? That is the restriction about VLOOKUP function. Okay, so that is what we have here. Any questions so far? Okay, so if no question, then we will move on to the next one, which is the pivot table. For pivot table, similar output can be obtained by using SUMIF, this function. So sometimes I will use this one, prefer this one compared to pivot table. But pivot table is easy. You don't have to use formula. So we will cover pivot table here. So given a report, a data, how do we summarize it into a table that gives us some of the useful information? Let's look at this one. Okay, right. So this is an online shopping platform. Again, this is simulated data or synthetic data, basically fake data. So we have like we look at the table first, the data, understand the data before we know what is the things that we need to do. Okay. So first thing, we look at table 2. You have customer ID and offer number. So what it means is that it's like doing a promotion, right? So the offer number 18 or the offer number 9. So you know that, like, for example, this customer 101, the customer ID, actually participated in 3 different offers. So it's like 10, 10, 11, 11, 12, 12, that kind of sales, Merdeka sales, New Year sales, and so on. Okay. So they participated in 3 different types of offer. Not they, he or she participated in 3 different types of offer. And then 102, this customer participated in 2 offer only. Okay, so we want to know, like, for example, how many customer participated in offer number 18. How do we do that? You can count one by one, of course. This part is not too long. Okay, and you can use SUMIF, COUNTIF, this kind of formula. So we will not use formula for this example. Then table 1 basically is the detail of the offer. That means offer number 1 is category, telling you, okay, offer 1 and 2 is in January, 3, 4, 5 is in February. And then every time their offer is like different categories. Sometimes it's the same. And then what it means by the category here is that, okay, for this category, if they purchase minimum 150, the platform will give a discount of 56%. Okay, so they have like different seller, just like Shopee, you have different seller, right? So these are the different seller. Okay, so anyway, now once we know that, okay, we have 2 tables or data from 2 different sources. So first thing, we want to know which offer has the highest number of customer participating in the offer. So that means you want to know which offer is most attractive, right? How do we do that? Second thing, we want to know the number of customers who participated in each category. So we want to know which category is most attractive, something like that. Okay. So the first one is by offer. The second one is by category. So you can see that every offer has a category. Every offer has a category. Over here, first table, you don't have the customer information. You don't know this offer, how many customers coming in, right? So you can't do that. But you know one thing from this part is that, for example, this customer participated in 3 offers. So if I want to know, for example, offer number 30, how many customers, I just need to count one by one, right? So this one, And then as long as 30 appears again, this one. So I just count now. I have 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. Of course, counting it this way, 7, 8, 8 here. So counting it this way is that time consuming and also very easy to have error because we count it manually. You see, I also forgot like maybe 8 or 9 already. So definitely we won't use this way. Okay, so this is not efficient. We use pivot table will be very fast. But before we use pivot table, one thing we can do is that you may want to add one more column here so that you have category. Okay, so usually you try not to touch the original data, but for this case, that is why we do a simple one. We copy, we add one more column here, not copy, sorry. Add one more column, category, so that we know this is category, like what is the category for this customer to participate in, right? So we do a VLOOKUP again, because based on the number, you want to know the category, right? So the number is actually placed vertically, the offer. Okay, so you can use a VLOOKUP to merge these two things together. So VLOOKUP of this one, over here, let me zoom in until the maximum, 400%. And then we can type the formula, right? So using VLOOKUP, 18, comma, you VLOOKUP the whole table 1, right? So I scroll to the left-hand side. So just now we did not include the header. So now we include the header. Don't forget include or not, it won't affect your VLOOKUP, but you have to lock it, F4 to lock it. So I select the whole table. By the way, selecting the whole table, you can use mouse to select like this, or you can also use the keyboard. I click at, this is just my habit. I click at the top left corner, Control Shift, and then I don't release the key, press right hand side, move to the right, and then Control Shift down. I can select the whole table. Okay. So once I have selected the whole table, press F4. I will scroll back to the place where you can see the formula. Okay, here. Right, so I will press F4 and then comma. Which column to return? Now we check. You have more than one column, right? 1, 2, 3. Category is in the third column. So now we want the third column. Put in a 3, comma, and then a false because you want exact match. Close the bracket. Press enter. Okay, so now we have this men's fashion for offer number 18. Of course, you can now double click to send this thing down. Okay, so of course, if you want, you can do some formatting as well. If you don't want, that is fine also. So let me put some border here. Okay, right now we have this table number 2. Which customer or attended which offer, and that offer is belongs to which category. So we have this part now, and we can do a pivot table to get what we need. In order to do a pivot table, what we can do is that we can select the whole table too. Okay, so Control Shift, if you are at the top left corner, Control Shift right and down, you select the whole table, and then data. Okay, so you can follow here. Sorry, not data. Insert pivot table. Pivot chart is here. So again, it depends on what type of version you are using. So if older version, 2010, I think, or 2013, pivot table and pivot chart are grouped together. So starting 2016, they split this thing out. Okay. Over here, we will be using pivot table only. So select the table that you have created just now, the one that we added the table, select whole table, okay? And then go to insert and then pivot table, click here. Okay, so once you have this one, then you can click OK. Of course, most of the time, we may want to check the range again. What is the range? I mean here, this part, okay? J15 to L339. So it's exactly what we selected just now, right? So which is why we mentioned just now, you select the table and then insert the pivot table. So new version of Excel, they will try to estimate what is the range. But old version of Excel, it depends on the selected. Of course, if you did not select, you can change here also. That is fine. Now, where you want to place the pivot table, new worksheet or existing worksheet. Over here, you choose new worksheet is easier. Last one, add data to data model. So this one, you can leave it unticked because data model is where you have different tables. You want to do a power pivot and so on. So we won't cover this thing also. So like you want to analyze multiple tables. Okay, so click OK. So that is this is the range that you have. Click OK. Okay, let me zoom out and then make it smaller a bit. Right. So the pivot table would be of this form. Okay. So now what we want to do is the first thing that we want to achieve is that we want to know what is the number of the offer number that has most customer participated in, right? So a lot of times you may want to present your result in this way, right? So let me zoom in a bit. Okay, right. So offer number, let's say. So maybe 18, offer number 18, you have 40 customer. Number of customer, okay, 49. Then offer 27, you have 38, something like that. So you want to place it in a table of this form where offer and customer are two different offer. You want to place it row by row, and then you want to analyze how many customer is there, right? So in this case, you want to place the offer. Observe where I click and drag. So I will click this offer to the row. Okay. Over here, I place my cursor here. Left click, don't release, click and drag. Drag to rows, and then I release. I place it here. Okay. So what happened here is that you can see over here, you will have the rows, row label 1 to the last one. See, this is offer number. So place it to a row means that I split the offer number into different rows. Okay, now I want to place the customer ID into the value because you want to analyze how many customers you have, right? So click this one and then drag it to here, release. Count of customer ID. And then you will realize that, okay, I have this one. And then, of course, you can find out where is the maximum. Okay. So you can sort it, right click here, and then you can actually sort it. Let me zoom in. Right. So once you have placed it as the, what is that called? Row and value, right click here. You can choose sort and then largest to smallest. Then you can see that, okay, offer number 30 has the most customer. Of course, at this point, you may see that these three are actually quite close to each other. So all these three are something that is more attractive to the student. Sorry, well, not student, customer. Okay, so something that you may want to analyze and put in more effort in the marketing or emphasize on the offer. Okay, so that is by offer number, but sometimes offer number depends on the month and category as well. So that is the second, there is a second task where you want to know, okay, what if I want to know which category has the most customer ID, customer. So in that case, let me zoom out. So you can actually change the order row here. So remember the row is actually offer number. So move to the right hand side a little bit. You can remove this one. Click and drag to the Excel part, right? So you see from here, I click and drag to here. I release. So offer will be moved out. So if without everything, only this one, what happened? So you can see it is actually counting. I have 324 customers in total. So now I drag category to the row. Okay, again, I drag category to the row. Release. So I will have this table on the left here. Okay, right. So if you want to know which customer, which category has the highest customer. So again, sort from largest to smallest, easier to see. Electronics accessories attracts most participants. So you can see that over here is like double of the second place, right? So it's very clear that in this case, it is very clear that electronic accessories is the most attractive in this platform. So when you want to emphasize more, you may probably want to focus on like the electronic accessories. Of course, whether you should focus on the highest or you should improve the lowest, that depends on your marketing strategy. So sometimes you may want to depends on some other rules to make decision, like 80-20 Pareto rules and something like that, right? So 80-20 Pareto rules is saying that 80% of your sales is coming from 20% of your customer, something like that. So you can also view it as like 80% of your customer is interested in 20% of your categories. So you will have something similar here. Okay, so you may want to focus on this part, or you may want to focus on the last two, depending on your strategy. Okay, also depending on the company's position, marketing placing. Okay, so using this pivot table, you can see that we can easily get the result or complete the two tasks here, which is offer number that has highest customer participating, and also the number of customer who participated in each category. Okay, so that is for this pivot table part. You can also insert some pivot chart to help you to do illustration and so on. So let's try doing the same thing again. Okay, so let me scroll to the table. So we added this column, remember? So I will use the same thing. For the same two tasks just now, we insert pivot table. Now we insert pivot chart. So sometimes if you want to make sure that you illustrated your result in the chart form, so you can use pivot chart. So I will do the same thing. I drag category to the row, and then, okay, before I drag, so let me just again resize it a bit so that things become easier to view. Right, so you can see that this interface is very similar to pivot table just now, except that column become legend, row become axis, but you can do the same thing. I drag the category to the axis, which was the row just now. And then I drag the customer ID to the value. Make sure that it is a count, because you want to count how many customers, right? So zoom out a bit. How come I cannot zoom out? Okay. Right, so you see, directly Excel will think that, okay, this should be a bar chart. So Excel will help you to put in. How do we make this bar chart to be slightly more interesting and attractive? We will talk about that tomorrow. So over here, you may want to sort the table. Largest to smallest, something like that. Then you can see that, okay, the last one is the highest. So very intuitively, let me make this chart larger. Right? Directly, we can see that, okay, what is the sales distribution of our different categories. So you see, very interesting. Of course, if you use offer number, then it's a little bit harder because offer number has too many different offer. So it will become a bit messy here. So, but category is a good example. So you can see that, very nice. Of course, you can make the bar chart even nicer. Okay, but anyway, we will talk about what are the things that we can add and can remove tomorrow. So this chart directly, we get some feeling of the distribution. Okay, so that means if you want to attract more customer, maybe you want to focus more on electronic accessories, promote it to new user. Okay, so or new or potential user of the platform. Okay, so that is one small example. Any question for this one so far? Okay. Okay, so if no question, then let me see. So we will talk about a little bit of this kind of non-Excel part first, a short one because ending soon. So this is basically some of the part that you can perform. So when you get the data, you try to clean it up, understand the data first, understand each column, what it represents, what is the data trying to tell you, and what is the task that you need to do. Then you try to get a simple idea first. You see, just like this one, simple idea of the data, just like this one, we do not directly say, okay, what is the marketing strategy or what is the sales? And then if you look at by month, right, probably you will also know that, let's say if I change this thing a little bit, because every offer from offer 1 to offer 32 is sorted in the time, right? So you see offer 1 and 1 to is January, 3, 4, 5 is February, and so on. So basically you want to look at, is there any pattern in the time, right? So sometimes you may see that, okay, nearer to New Year, the sales increase, right? So you may want to analyze these kind of things also. So you have actually a lot of aspect to view this data. But before you actually go into a detailed data, sometimes we plot a simple chart or we get a simple table like just now the category. And then we try to see, okay, the largest is actually double of the second largest. So you realize, electronic accessories is very important. Okay, so which is why you want to plot the chart. So these are called elementary analysis. Pivot table is very good in performing these kind of things. Sometimes you want to summarize the data and so on. Okay, so after you get the data, we don't directly throw it into the model and get the result. So like what we mentioned just now, understand the data, try to get a feeling of what the data is actually what the data looks like. So of course there are data cleansing, remove duplicates, and then missing value and so on. So we will talk about that also in tomorrow. How do we deal with some certain things that how do we deal with missing data? Of course, we won't talk about in details. So over here, one thing to emphasize is outlier. So outlier may be depending on which year you are in now. So you may have already learned what is outlier. You may have not learned what is this thing. So for example, if let's say you have 5 numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the last one is 100. So the 100 is actually an outlier. So which is also why you see if you have an outlier, that means it's sort of like abnormal value that is too big or too small. Okay, so you may have 1, 2, 3, and then negative 100. So negative 100 is too small, right? Or 1, 2, 3, 0.2. So 0.2 could be a bit small also, depending on types of data you have. Okay, so there are a lot of statistic way to determine or detect outlier. We won't talk about that here. graphical way of detecting outliers like histogram, Boss plot, scatter plot, and normal probability plot. So these are graphical way. You have analytical way like IQR and other tests we won't cover here. So you can actually plot different chart to see is there any outlier. So one of the one of the good example is that probably you have seen that our government always publish the survey saying that, okay, our average income is how much, our Malaysia or the KL Selangor income, average income is how much and how much. So sometimes they will give you the average. Sometimes they also give you together with the median. So why is it a median there? So median is like numbers in between. So back to this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 100. You add up everything is 110 divided by 5. So you get 22, right? So the average is 22. You see larger than most of them. But if you take median, the number is 3. It is in the middle. Median is like number in the middle when you sort it in ascending order. So sometimes when you have outlier, you want to use median. Sometimes when data is a bit more stable, you want to use mean. So it depends on the situation. So that is outlier. Okay, so once you understand outlier, you want to do a cleaning of outlier, cleaning of missing value, and so on. Then only we proceed to some analysis, and then and so on. Okay, so the rest we will talk about that tomorrow. And I think for today is okay to stop here. Then we will continue. I see you again tomorrow. So we will end today's workshop here. Any questions, you can let me know. You can also leave a message in these Teams if, let's say, when afternoon or evening when you practice on the exercises and so on. Okay, so anything, just let me know. Okay, thank you. And Ms. Lee, I will pass back to you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chiu. Okay, I guess there's no other question from students. So in case you have, you may leave your question at the chat box. I mean the team group here. Once the recording is ready, I will put in the Google Drive also, just in case you can't get the recording here. So again, I will be posting the sign out form also. Kindly sign out for our record. Okay, so since there is no other questions, so we will end the workshop now. See you again for the workshop 3 tomorrow, same time, 9 o'clock. Okay, thank you all the participants. Thank you, Mr. Chiu. Okay, bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.